In today's video, we're going to be designing a CD cover inspired by trance artwork from the late 90s and early 2000s.
Dreadlabs.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Tom from Dreadlabs and I'm a visual artist and graphic designer. And in today's video, I'm going to make an attempt at designing a trance CD cover inspired by the late 90s and 2000s trance visuals that I've been seeing ever since I was little. And what I'm going to be using for this is my latest asset pack called Trance Essentials. I made this pack earlier this year and it's full of old school 3D renders and all kinds of other elements that will help you create this design and make it look like it's been made on an old computer over 20 years ago. Throughout the video, I'm going to be showcasing this. So if you want to get the pack for yourself, there's a link in the description down below. And without any further ado, let's dive straight into the video. So every good trance CD cover needs a nice base. The Trance Essentials has this in a couple of different forms. Let's start out with the backgrounds folder, for example. It comes with 3 really old school 3D renders, as you can see. It looks like these have been made in Bryce 3D. As well as some old school bursts. So these are really nice when it comes to these compilation CDs that I used to have as a kid. But for this video, I'm going to try something with 3D renders. Specifically, I think this one with the checkerboard pattern is something that really interests me. It gives that kind of like liminal, weird little feeling that you get when you look at these artworks, especially when the computer power was really low. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a huge fan of the TV series Community, and in season 6, it has this virtual reality episode, and the visuals for this are kind of inspired by this. It's kind of supposed to be from the same era as well. Anyways, let's take a look at the 3D renders that we have here. So we have some shiny metals, as you can see right here. We got some rough metals, we got planets, and we got crystals. And these crystals are PNGs, so they're transparent. For now, I'm gonna grab this shiny planet, and I kind of want to make it look like it's like emerging from the horizon. So I'm going to make a quick cutout here. So I'm gonna make a path with the pen tool, and I'm gonna make a selection. Right click, make selection, and let's feather this selection maybe 5 pixels. And then hold Alt or Option on our keyboard and add a mask to our planet. And this looks nice, but the mask is a little bit off. So let's unlink the mask and move it down just a little bit. Something like this is fine, I guess. And I kind of want to match the color as well. So I'm going to make a solid color, remove it for a second, and then sample this magenta color from the checkerboard. And clip that to our planet. If we put the blend mode to color, this works pretty nicely. Maybe lower the opacity just a little bit to make it more smooth. And this works pretty well, I guess. Because it looks like there's light emerging from the horizon, I also want this light to be covered on the planet. So I'm going to add a gradient overlay to this. And let's reset all of this to default. And then change the gradient from a like nice light little beige color. And we'll move this towards this magenta color here. And let's just make sure that the gradient lines up with the artwork first. So somewhere here I think is fine. And now we need to make this magenta color transparent so that it only looks like it's lights emerging from under the planet. And this is fine, but now I see that this mask isn't really positioned properly, so let's do that right now. And we're going to clean this mask up just a little bit with the brush tool. So I'm going to make a soft brush which is colored black. Let's paint here on the edges to make it look like it's a little, this may be a little bit too much, but just around the edges to make it look like it's a little bit misty. So I think this works really well. One thing that I kind of want to do still is grab the color from here, and then I'm going to make a new solid color. And if we put this to lighten, I think, and then just clip it on the planet, that will make sure that our shadows from the planet are the kind of the same shade as here. So yeah, there we go. Let's group this and call this planet. And let's save our PC in case Photoshop crashes. I hope not. And if there is some name that's stuck in my head for a while now, it's compilation CD called Trance Weapons. Completely fictional, but I just really like the name of it. I already made an artwork using this name, but I just like it so much that I'm just gonna use it again, I think. So let's find some dope fonts to work with. This is maybe a little bit too much YDK, but it could work. So let's just type it out. This font is called Naunesh. And maybe if we put it to regular. Anyways, this font's also available on dreadlabs.net. And of course, if you are following along and designing with me, you can just simply pick any simple font you like. Just gonna lower the line height here and center it. And I'm not really sure where I want the positioning to be at. Let's put it in the top first. And I want to showcase the next part of the Dreadlabs Trance Essentials, and that's adjustable layer styles that I made just for the spec. Someone with water overlays. I think this is particularly working really well for this specific style. Well, we have some chrome in there, some lighting stuff. Yeah, and I think this one works pretty well with the vibe that we got going on here. Maybe let's change the color overlays and stuff like that a little bit more. I think this like orange color works really well. And let's scale the size of the bevel and emboss up just a little bit, but then we lower the depth. Let's do that. And lower the shadow opacity too. And we're gonna change this color to maybe that blue, or maybe this white. Now this is a little bit too much, I think. So let's go with the magenta from the tiles. And then we can do something similar with the blue here. We can just change this blend mode to multiply, and that way it will kind of stick in the same color pattern, or palette I should say. And maybe lower the distance of the drop shadow just a little bit. And then I want to have kind of like something in the background which would like make this pop a little bit more. So in the Trance Essentials, let's check out if there's any vector elements that we want to use for that. We can try to do something with this. What we can also do, let's go into the 3D renders and see if there's something that we can use for that as well. I am kind of like trying to experiment with this some more. I've used a lot of these 3D renders already myself in specific flyers, but these two I kind of want to use for this one maybe, or this one. I think this one we can use as a centerpiece here, and maybe we can use the globe here as an overlay over the planet or something like that. So let me just see if we can do anything cool with that really. Or maybe just multiply. Nah, we'll just make it too complicated, and I think if we make it too complicated then it just doesn't work anymore. I just said in another video, kill your darlings, so we can do something with every single thing in this. What we can do, however, is just morph this sphere. Just holding shift, and we can just change this into like a 3D orb and put it in the background of our title here. And let's just drop that out of the planet group. And again, I think I want to use a hue saturation, so I'm going to press Command or Control U on my keyboard to bring that up. And just change the hue to something that fits the artwork just a little bit better. Maybe I'm going to saturate it a little bit more. I think this blue part actually works kind of well. So now it pops off from the background a little bit better. And maybe we'll just do like a subtle outer glow. So I'm going to reset this to default and then just scale up. And I think I'm going to change the color to this like nice magenta, and then keep the color to screen or the blend mode. And maybe up the spread just a little bit. And I think if we just make it a little bit lighter and lower the range to somewhere like here. Let's just see what this looks like with and without. Yeah, this is nice. All right. So like I said, I wanted to do something with this abstract shape because I feel like it matches really well in terms of checkerboard pattern that we got going on here. So let me just move this down, and I'm just gonna go and group this title together to keep our layer menu basically clean and organized. And what kind of bothers me, but it's also kind of cool, is that you can see that this perspective isn't really matching with the checkerboard. And I think if we just edit this manually, I don't think we're gonna get there. Maybe a little bit more, but honestly, like, because this is this style, this art style is kind of notorious on how janky it kind of looks, if that makes sense. I'm fine with it being out of proportions. So I'm gonna make a duplicate of the sphere and torus, and I'm gonna call this shadow. And I'm gonna give this a color overlay of this blue. And I'm gonna change the blend mode to multiply. Or what I should do is group this and change the blend mode of the group to multiply and call this shadow. And then we're gonna blur this with a simple Gaussian blur, and something like 50 pixels should do the trick. Let's drop this behind our sphere and torus and then transform this, drop it down and scale this thing like so. And it's a little bit too light, so I'm just gonna darken the color overlay a little bit more. Something like this is fine. And now let's change the color of the sphere and torus. What I'm gonna do is grab my eyedropper tool by pressing I on my keyboard and then sample these two checkerboard colors. And I'm gonna go to adjustments and make a gradient map and clip that gradient map to the checkerboard torus. See what that does for us. And maybe looking at it now, let's just add a couple of colors in here from the background. So let's remove this layer mask, go into the gradient, and we'll move this magenta color to the right, and we'll add in this nice little lighter color, and we'll also add in this orange. And we're gonna move these colors around so that it darkens up just a little bit, because I feel like it can be a little bit more purple. Ooh. Somewhere like here. All right, this looks pretty cool already. So I am going to see if we're gonna need some extra text for this. Because it feels like we also need to promote this somehow, you know, like there's also all these CD covers used to have like stuff like including the hit song, blah, 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 blah. So I think I'm gonna keep it like without mentioning any artists to avoid confusion. Because usually when you do a YouTube thumbnail, they will end up on Pinterest and stuff like that. But what I wanna do is basically do something like, I don't know, 40 trance classics or something like that. And what might be fun is if we use the impact font on Windows, which is, I think, in my opinion, it's kind of notorious because it's also like the meme font as well. But I feel like it fits the aesthetic quite well, to be honest. So what we can do here is I kind of want to keep it symmetrical. There's also like a lot of elements that we can use to make it asymmetrical, but to be honest, I'm not really sure if I want that. Let's grab some vector elements. And these vector elements are mostly focused around the more like Y2K styled trance flyers that will show up on the screen right now, which are also made with this asset pack. And let's just drop in this little meta ball shape, and we'll scale this so that it matches the width of the text a little bit better. And with this, we're gonna grab the layer styles once more. And I think I wanna have this glow. A little bit too drastically, but I kinda like that actually. And with the inner glow, we're gonna just change the colors to this orange. Like this. So now let's change the scale of the inner glow and the range as well. And that's what I really like about these. Like they're a good base to kickstart your layer styles, but since they're all like easily tweaked, can create for some really interesting results. Let's change the blend mode to normal for this. And for the color overlay, let's grab that yellow text. All right. And then for this one, I maybe want to go with, no, this is a little bit too much, I feel like. So let's see what happens if we change the colors of this to something that matches our aesthetic just a little bit more. And let's change the gloss contour to a more normal one. soften this up a little bit. Yeah, and if we recolor these, it will look a little bit better. I feel like it's a little bit too purple here in my opinion, so I'm gonna make this bluish. And let's change the distance on this a little bit more. And I feel like the outer glow is affecting these a lot, yeah. So let's just skip the outer glow for now. And let's change the global light setting to something like this. Let's keep that 3D effect here a lot more subtle. And looking at it now, maybe I want to change the colors of these. So change the title color to this yellow. And then change the subtitle color to that orange here. Like that. Alright, so we're looking good so far. So one last thing that I would like to add is go to the vector elements, and I'm gonna grab this grid of like hexagons, which is just a little bit asymmetrical. It will be a little bit less asymmetrical if I do it like this, but just to give a, like a really subtle touch of, like, not everything is symmetrical, I guess. So let's drop that all the way to the background behind the planet and lower the opacity to maybe 25%, and then invert it so it's white, something like this. And I also want it to be hidden in the horizon, or before the horizon, like this. So I'm just gonna go and mask this out like that and make a subtle Gaussian blur on the edge of the mask. Let's zoom in and move this upward just a little bit. And let's play around the blend modes. Maybe we'll find something interesting here. Maybe if we just invert it back and then put it to blend mode. Yeah, the blend mode to overlay is actually pretty nice. This matches a little bit more with the rest of the screen. Alright, I'm quite happy with the composition so far. So one thing that we see on these Ray flyers, and this is because these were made in like the late 90s and early 2000s, is that the quality of the images isn't just really good. I don't really want to make like really low quality 3D renders because if you want to use this for some other kind of project, when you get this back, I want you to use it in high print quality, of course. If you want to mimic that style, there's actually a couple of Photoshop actions that come with Trance Essentials that can help you achieve this effect. And that's what we're going to do right now. First off, I want to add a zoom blur. Let's scroll down to our Trance Essentials and run this zoom blur effect. And this will just get this crazy weird zoom blur in here, and I'm just going to mask a lot of this out with a subtle black brush that's softened because I want the text to be visible, but I want these edges to be like all over the place with this weird like glow, I guess. Next thing that we can do is add in a quick noise to add some texture to this. Let's play around with the curves. I think this can be a little bit darker. And the quick noise can be a little bit lighter, the multiply version. And let's collapse these again. So already it looks a lot more grainy, which is nice, but we want to have that really, it just looks too sharp. If we zoom in on this render, you can see that it's made in 2025, if you know what I mean. Let's save this and let's click on the unsharpen action, and this will make a duplicate of your layer, just that's a little bit more blurry. So if we take a look at this now compared to what it was, you can see that it's a lot less sharp right now. And this does wonders, especially for the grain effect on there as well. But then again, we can also do something else, and that's called reduce resolution. So this will scale your image down automatically, and scale it back up, which basically reduces the resolution. So let's run this. And if we zoom in now, you can kind of see how pixely it is now. And that's something that you can see in these flyers really well. And if you want to play around with this some more, you can also unsharpen this again. So you can run these effects over and over and stack them on top of each other until you have something that you're satisfied with. And the more that we run these effects, as you can see, the more it looks like it's been made in the early 2000s, even though that the pixel density is still 3000 by 3000 pixels. So to give you an idea, let's just zoom in here, and this is the after and this is the before. So that just works really, really well with this style. Anyways guys, there you have it, a Trance CD cover designed with the Trance Essentials asset pack in about 25 minutes. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on this and leave a comment down below. If you want to get the PSD file for this artwork that I made in this video, you can join me on Patreon, where you get access to not only this PSD file, but all of the other PSD files from all of my videos. It will also grant you a permanent 25% discount in my web store, where you can get Trance Essentials for yourself. And for the people that buy Trance Essentials, I will add this PSD file to the pack as well, because the pack comes with a couple of example PSD files that you can see on the screen right now, which you can basically experiment around with. Change the text if you want to use it as a template, all of that's completely fine. So the link to all of these goodies will be in the description down below. And if you haven't yet, please check out my YouTube channel, because it contains tons upon videos on graphic design, visual art, and anything in between. With all of that being said, this is Tom from Dreadlabs tuning out. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully see you guys in the next video.